We have more for your ears only. I'm Catherine Herzog.
I'm David Alpern with this quote from the news. I'm not surprised we had a shutout today. That was Baseball Hall of Fame President Jeff Idelson acknowledging that allegations of performance-enhancing drug use made this the first year since 1996 that no players were voted into the pantheon of the national pastime. The next day, Major League Baseball and its players' union agreed on a new set of rules that expanded drug testing. Also, there were reports that Lance Armstrong would finally confess to past doping for Oprah's show. Now this.
Emma Stone is the star of the new film Gangster Squad. I'm not sure you're the star. That seems more like an ensemble piece to me, right?
Just keep reading.
The star of the new film Gangster Squad and is one of the brightest talents of her generation. Some say she's better than Meryl Streep. Who says that?
I don't know. Nobody. A lot of people. Let's just read the nominees.
Okay.
Everything is a production in Hollywood, including last week's pre-dawn announcement of Oscar nominations by Seth MacFarlane and Emma Stone. When they were finally done, there was the usual mixture of predictable and surprising choices for voters from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and some even more surprising omissions. For example, the acclaimed historic epic Lincoln led the pack with 12 nominations. But the directors of Best Picture nominees, Zero Dark 30, Les Mis, and Argo, Kathryn Bigelow, Tom Hooper, and Ben Affleck, failed to win nominations in their own category.
For more on the nominations and some new releases for Your Ears Only, we're joined again by critic Marshall Fine, whose reviews appear at HollywoodandFine.com and the Huffington Post. He also runs the Emmelyn Theater Film Club in Mamaroneck, New York, and the Thalia Theater Film Club at Symphony Space in Manhattan. Welcome back to our program.
Hey, good to be back.
One of the Best Picture nominees we haven't had a chance to discuss on this show yet is Quentin Tarantino's guilty pleasure Django Unchained, which, like Lincoln, deals with slavery, but also with buckets of blood, spaghetti western music, even rap. Some were offended, but you loved it.
Well, you say guilty pleasure like there's something wrong with it. I did like the movie. I think Quentin Tarantino is one of the most passionate and imaginative and directors going today, and one of the best writers. So, this is a movie that was meant to be controversial and provocative, and it certainly fills that slot. And it's, you have to admit, everywhere you go, you hear people talking about it.
Were you surprised that low-budget child-starring Beasts of the Southern Wild is competing with Lincoln, Django, Life of Pi, Silver Linings Playbook, and more?
I am, in the sense that it's a movie that I think of as a critic's movie, but not really an audience movie. And it's not. I'm surprised that the Academy went for something like that instead of, say, Best Exotic Marigold Hotel or something a little more mainstream.
What's your bet on which picture wins for the best?
It could go a lot of different ways, but I think the front runners have to be Lincoln, Les Miserables, and Zero Dark 30. I think those are the three that ultimately are going to be slugging it out for the Best Picture Oscar.
How usual or rational is it for directors not to be nominated for pictures that are?
Well, for those of us who watch these things closely, it's like every year, until they went to the system of more than 5 nominees, it was like every year you'd have, there'd be some disconnect with one movie between Best Director and Best Picture. There was always one Best Picture director who wasn't nominated as Best Director. Now, with the system where you've got up to 10 movies, you've got as many as 5 directors who should have been nominated that weren't. So it's not a surprise that they weren't. I was a little surprised, again, by the Beast of the Southern Wild director getting in there over, say, someone like Ben Affleck or Kathryn Bigelow.
And who are your favorites for Best Actor and Actress?
Best Actor, it's got to be, I think it's Daniel Day-Lewis's year again. And Best Actress, I think it's between Jessica Chastain and Jennifer Lawrence for Zero Dark 30 and Silver Linings Playbook. And I think they'll give it to Jennifer Lawrence.
And what about Best Supporting Actor and Actress?
Well, I think that Sally Field and Anne Hathaway are probably the favorites in that one. In Supporting Actress, Supporting Actor, I would give it to Alan Arkin. I think it's between Tommy Lee Jones and Robert De Niro, actually.
Any other nominations or omissions that surprised or offended you?
The omissions really were, it was the omissions that bothered me. The film Moonrise Kingdom was one of my favorites last year. It barely got recognized here. The same thing with the movie The Sessions. I thought that was the performances in that. Helen Hunt was nominated, but her co-star John Hawke was not, and that was really one of the strongest performances of the year, I thought.
All the killing in Lincoln and Django, though handled quite differently, it also leads us to ask about your recent recommendation that whatever happens in Washington, Hollywood should ban guns, and not mainly to avoid inspiring more mass shootings. What's your rationale?
Well, I was being less doctrinaire, I guess, than sort of trying to be satirical. I feel like there's so many movies where there is so much gunfire to so little effect that guns are boring. Guns are really sort of the act of a desperate screenwriter when he's got nothing else that he can come up with in his imagination. He says, let's pull out a gun.
Well, let's look at some current releases, starting with the one that Emma Stone is in, Gangster Squad, about an off-the-books police war on organized crime in Los Angeles. You like Josh Brolin as an honest cop, Sean Penn as mobster Mickey Cohen, but not the film itself.
I thought this was a really derivative film. It was it was like they'd looked at a lot of old gangster movies and tried to make one of their own, and went through the motions without finding the heart or the passion of it. And again, it's like I wonder. Every bad guy with an automatic weapon, no, they can't hit anything. Every good guy with an automatic weapon is like every bullet hits a different target. This is a movie that really inspired me to write the other thing about guns, because there's so many machine guns and so few victims. I keep wondering why they use them.
What about Promised Land, a fictionalized treatment of the current debate over hydraulic fracturing or fracking to blast natural gas from under many rural properties? Is it honest and compelling?
I think it's honest. I don't think it's particularly compelling. I feel like it was a movie that wanted to make a point rather than tell a story, and it's got a good cast in it with Hal Holbrook and a couple of other people in support of Matt Damon and John Krasinski, who are the main stars. But I felt like they were preaching to the choir here, that ultimately they did have a message, and they didn't let you find it; they gave it to you.
Marshall Fine's reviews appear at HollywoodandFine.com and the Huffington Post. He also runs the Emmeline Theater Film Club in Mamaroneck, New York, and the Thalia Theater Film Club at Symphony Space in Manhattan.
Quote from the news, none of this is a showstopper. That was aviation analyst Richard Abulafia on failures and mishaps plaguing the radically new Boeing 787 Dreamliner, including a fuel leak, electrical fire, and cockpit cracks. Still, Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood ordered a thorough FAA investigation of design and construction factors, though he also stressed the plane was safe.
Next, does this song make me look fat? For your ears only.